Hi, I'm Newt, and you're with Pastorpedia. We're competing with Wikipedia for a national audience. We are so grateful to have this chance to talk to, especially to pastors and church leaders, and today about staff. Now, I know that's not an issue for anyone. Yeah, it is. We're talking about either paid staff or lead volunteers and communication. Any staff relationship is a marriage or a dance, and the senior, okay, has to lead in many ways, but also is there to wash feet and to serve. So staff, please be thinking about it. I was asked on a panel with different pastors group, it was actually at Moody, what's the hardest area of decision? And I said immediately, I think staff. It really is. It's painful and it's wonderful, and they're your best friends, and sometimes you go, hey, straight talk, I need to say this. And then how to use them and how they use us and how we work together as a TEAM. I want to start with that, team. Give me a T. Tie your heart to God's, that our heart is connected with God's mission. That's why we are doing this. Hello, it's not for me. It's not for any other pastor. E, give me an E. Embrace a sense of mission. That you know what you're doing is huge. It's Michael Jordan sticking out his tongue and driving to the basket. And everybody on the team has to embrace that sense of mission. A, allow for differences. Yeah, everybody's different. We don't like everything about everybody else, but we can love them on staff. Love them as Christ talks about it, action love, forgiving, gracious love. M, make every effort for excellence. You got to do your part. You got to pull hard. TEAM. Tie your heart to God's. Embrace a sense of mission. You're doing something huge in God's eyes and to help people. Allow for differences, yeah. And make every effort for excellence. Do it right. Whatever your hand finds to do. Staff. Jeff, thoughts on staff, please.
Staff is a huge area, and it is a complicated area because probably my greatest joys in ministry have been working together with my team and having a brotherhood and just an incredible team of people who are passionate and excellent at what they do. And then probably some of my most painful things in ministry have been when that team doesn't go well, or it breaks, or someone is hurt in that process or fallen even. And so it's definitely a mixed bag of emotions. I learned though, years ago, I was listening to John Maxwell. And one of the things he said there's going to be a point in your leadership where the ability for you to continue to lead further is going to be completely dependent on those who lead with you. So I learned quickly that whether it's key volunteers, because a lot of our staffs are volunteers, that the more I pour into them, raise them up, believe in them, the further we go together as a team. They're not there just to serve me, we're there to serve together. And their passion and their desire and their abilities are gifts that they bring in. I bring mine as well, and then God does some great things. So finding the right people, keeping the right people, leading them, encouraging them, pushing them, it's all very, very hard work, but it takes you further than you ever thought you could go, and I think God blesses that in amazing ways when you have a good and a healthy and a strong team. Jim, what's some of your journey with it?
There's some good stuff, Newt, and Jeff really is, and add to my tool bag. A couple things come to mind. One is I try to hire or get guys around me that are better than me in areas. Like, I don't want always to be the guy that knows everything. I'm not afraid of having someone who does something better than me. It makes me a better leader. And so I look for guys who strategically can do something better than me, so it makes the team stronger. Bill Hybels said years ago, when you're hiring someone, there's 3 C's. There's character, competence, and chemistry. You can always find character. You also can always find competent leaders, but it's rare when you can find chemistry amongst your staff. And so that's one thing's big for me. In fact, Newt, it's something I heard you say in a class I took from Newt years ago, doctor of ministry class. I scout my guys out. I get them on the basketball court and see how they are on the basketball court before I hire them and see if they can play as a team. I would also say this, that your team must know, your staff must know that you love them. And some of the hardest times for me have been when staff members have had to move on. God has moved them on. I mean, I've shed some tears over that. It's broken my heart to see them move on. But character, chemistry, and competence. Go after the chemistry element. And I will close with this by saying, the best time to fire someone is when you hire them. Find out everything you can. Work hard at looking at their background, why they left other places, or why they want to be on your team. Make sure their heart's lined up with Jesus.
Great. Thank you both. Say more about that. What do you mean the best time to fire someone is when you hire them?
Well, I think it's pretty simple. Get rid of them after the interview.
Whoa.
Yeah, and you fire them right there. You say, I'm not bringing you on the team. Instead of after watching them unpack their lives and realizing you shouldn't have brought them on the team. 6 months, 2 years, 3 years later, it's more difficult, more painful to fire them than fire them in the interview. That way, by not hiring them.
Indeed.
So be brutal in that interview process. One of the things I've learned about hiring staff in particular is in the interview process, what I think is a yellow flag is actually a red flag. The interview process is a very romantic process because you're impressing each other, you're hoping this is the right person. And so that brutal honesty in that process is the fire them before you hire them thing. Holding on and believing that God's going to bring the right people to bear on it.
Sort of like telling a search committee, don't just listen to one sermon.
Right.
The interview's going to be at your best.
Don't give your best.
That's right.
Say something about more about the character, competence, chemistry.
Well, one of the ways, Newt, I try to find chemistry or build chemistry. I think it's such a critical part of building a team. For instance, I want to get our guys together and do life together, even outside of the walls. And so we got together and trained together and did a Tough Mudder together. We got up early together. We ran together. We held each other's arms up. It was like Aaron and her holding up Moses' arms. And so we did life together, even outside of the walls of the church. And you find a lot about each other, and you find areas where you're stronger, another guy's stronger, and there's this natural sense, I like this guy. We gel well together. So chemistry is the make or break I think, in staff.
Absolutely. And our guys don't do that. We're more apt to get a pizza and watch a movie, maybe play a little ping pong. But the chemistry is everything. And when we're hiring, it's an accomplishment to make it onto the Grace Church staff. We drag the process out on purpose. You're interacting with as many people as we can possibly get you to interact with. And we want to see that click. Character is something that a person has or doesn't have for the most part.
It doesn't change much.
It doesn't change much. So is chemistry. I would rather mold clay than chisel granite. I can teach you competence. I can't change your character, and I can't change your chemistry.
A coach said to me once, I'll pick that guy, and because of he's raw material and could play any position on my team. Yep. I'll pick him over just a specialist.
Absolutely.
Same thing in a church, a little bit?
Depends on where you're at in the hiring process. So if it's your first or second hire, a generalist is always a great thing. The larger and further you go as a church, sometimes you need the specialist. You need the children's director who's amazing. But yeah, it just depends. But I want the guy, I think it's what your coach was saying, I want the guy that hustles more than the guy who's the sharpshooter.
Yep. I would even say that, when it comes to that guy, I want guys that are passionate about, number one, following after Jesus, and they're passionate about the local church. If they're like, this is just a job, and they don't see it as potentially it's transforming the kingdom, then I don't want them on the team.
Absolutely.
Talk about, in real estate, it's location. Communication, and relationship. Either of those. Talk about that on staff. How do you help, or main volunteers? Churches that are led and served by main volunteers. A church of 100 might have 10 main volunteers. How do you maintain communication and relationship?
I do try to do my best. I try to encourage my people. I go out of my way to walk into their offices, to send them emails, to send them texts. If it's their birthday, I'll text them. I text Jeff on your birthday. I'll send them. I just want them to know that
Mine's
I love them.
in January, by the way.
Is it?
Yeah.
How old will you be, Newt?
I'll be 74,
Okay.
yeah.
We better celebrate that one.
We'll send a pigeon.
But I would say, love them. Just, I love my staff, but they don't know that unless I tell them that.
Yep.
We assume too much that they know things, and it never hurts to say over and over again, I love you, thank you, thank you.
Great. Communication. Jeff, you have a large staff, but you might have a large volunteer staff in another particular church. What do you do to communicate?
We have a weekly staff meeting, which is a huge thing. And in that staff meeting, we actually try to relax it so that we can laugh together and enjoy each other some in that process as well. Weekly staff meeting. We, once a month, in our setting, we have what we call an all-staff meeting. So it's everyone from the pastors through all the part-time folks. And we come together, we laugh a lot. I share my heart. We'll bring them kind of up to speed on whatever the major projects are. Lots of emails, lots of text. You cannot over-communicate with your staff. And as much personal interaction and hanging out as possible. Another thing that my wife Heidi does is she gets the pastors and staff wives together separately. And that communication actually is a very critical communication.
Yeah, it is.
That those spouses are excited and passionate and even know what's going on in the church as well.
My wife, Ann, does something similar. Probably she has a closed Facebook page for all the pastors'
they have
wives,
that, yep.
where they can just communicate. It's just them interacting, praying, interceding for each other.
I remember a couple times where a guy told me his wife was mad at me. And it didn't take me too much to figure out. I wonder how she got mad at me.
Yeah.
But that's the way he bounced it off her. And you got to take that seriously, of course. I'm not making fun of that. Talk about women on staff. Many of our churches are slow to give authority and areas of ministry to women.
We have many women on our staff. Let me just hit it a couple of ways. Number one, we believe in male eldership of the church. So when we look at the women on our staff, they're called directors. They have complete administrative authority, and they're not asking for the spiritual oversight. So they have men that work for them. They actually run the biggest departments on the staff, and they do an incredible job. The other neat thing about women when it comes to part-time staff is many times you will have a stay-at-home mom who is highly educated, highly professional, but doesn't want a full-time job. And we have found that they are an amazing resource. That their giftedness, their intelligence coming on is a huge gift. We utilize that a lot with our staff.
I know that in my little blog on Pastorpedia, I'm mentioning special forces, retired people who are done with their jobs, some of them on good retirements, who can contribute to the church. I think many small churches neglect, hey, the guy sitting right there who ran the treasury at a big company or something.
Absolutely.
Comments on that? They're in the audience.
I think it's pretty simple. When you get word or you understand a skill, make the ask. There's guys out there and gals, they want you to ask them. And I found if you make a personal ask to that person, it props them up. They're your friend, they're going to serve, they're going to volunteer, and they're going to be in the trenches with you. So make the ask.
And don't make that ask a patronizing ask.
Yes.
So if you ran a company, it's awesome if you want to visit the sick,
This isn't a big job, but
yeah, but they know exactly what to do more than you. We're not trained to be executives, and so they're incredible partners.
I would say this way: too often we say the no for someone. I don't say people's no's. What I mean by that is I'm going to, even if I think they got other things in the fire, I'm going to make them say no to me. I'm not going to say the no for them. And too many of us, well, they won't sign up. They don't have time. I make them say the no. I don't say the no for them.
Good. I said it's a dance. I was brought up, it's not a good illustration, because I was brought up in church where dancing is a sin, because it ends in S-I-N.
Yeah, that's right.
But
If it's rapping, it might be.
wrapping this up about staff, in what sense is it, or lead volunteers, it is a dance. And I don't mean that in a mystery way. It's just, it's moves and love, and you got to lead, but you're together in this.
Without getting mystical about it, we have to remember that it's the body of Christ. So God brought those people together, dancing that through, figuring that out. What are your strengths? The Lord is in that.
Indeed.
And that's a huge part of that process.
I think it's just valuing people in particular, seeing that, man, if God created that person, there's worth in valuing them. Elevate that and let them know that they're valuable.
Wow. We each wrote a paper about this for Pastorpedia and on staff. And I'll tell you, it'll come out if you talk to us privately, and I think in our papers, this is a hard area and we've all failed. But we think the ideas will help you. Pastorpedia is about that, helping pastors and church leaders. Jim Brown, Jeff Bogue, Newt Larson, thank you very much.